The Atlanta Hawks putting Clint Capela on the trade market, the veteran big man in a market where we see a lot of teams that are looking for a center. Why are the Hawks doing this? What could they get in return, and who should be interested in the services of Clint Capela? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. We're going to keep you up to date on all the latest going on around the NBA trade market. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Clint Capela, interesting addition to the trade market. Another veteran big man, and joining Jakob Poeltl and Nikola Vucevic in a price tier right around that $20 million range. Although Capela, the advantage he's got, he's an expiring contract. Ooh. I think there's going to be some teams calling the Hawks, seeing if they can get Clint Capela.
He expires this year?
He does.
Oh, that's
right.
Interesting. Okay.
Teams want expiring contracts right now. We saw it. We know that's what they're looking for. Look at this. We've got for Clint Capela, $22 million expiring deal, $22.2 million, and then a free agent after this season. Still just 30 years old. I think plenty of basketball left in him. Mm-hmm. I think this is a guy that that Atlanta is going to be fielding some calls on.
Yeah, as they should. I mean, he's going to give you 10 and 10 per night, give you a block or two as well. I mean, I think there's value there in him, and he's more of a traditional roll and cut type big, but I think there's value in that, especially at 22 million. I don't hate that number. I don't love it a ton either, sure, but I don't hate it either. I think that he's somebody that, you could probably sell pretty high on, especially in this market. I think that there's a lot of centers out there, but I don't think that they're all going to get moved. I think he's got a decent shot at getting moved, so I think they could probably sell pretty high. My only concern with them, or with that trade, is what it does to them, because I know that they're going to try to put a lot of focus on Onyeka Okongwu, and Larry Nance maybe slides into the rotation, although he's also somebody they could potentially be shopping as well, because he's on another expiring deal, hasn't been part of the rotation. But I do like the way that they are built here, but I would like for them to probably pull back another center so they can keep that big core up there and then stay competitive with that. But I think Capela is going to be a fun one on the market to watch.
I wonder if they just think, if we can trade Capela, then we can just keep Larry Nance and let him be nominally our backup five. But here's what Jake Fisher has on the situation. He was talking about Valanciunas initially, saying that Valanciunas' contract is easier to absorb than the 20+ million for Vucevic, for Capela, guys like that. But then adds in, the Hawks nonetheless would like to find Capela a new home before his contract expires after this season. Sources say with Atlanta confident in the long-term starting ability of Onyeka Okongwu. So this is really, yeah, that's it exactly. So that you've got really push and pull factors here for the Hawks, in that there is demand out there on the market for centers. So perhaps that's something they can capitalize on, but they also know they've got a guy waiting in the wings that's ready to take on that role in Okongwu. So they're ready to try to make this deal and make this happen. I think for a Hawks team that has been pretty good compared to maybe what we expected, but not, they're not in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference right now. They're the 7th seed in the East. Minus 2.5 point differential, but we've also seen them look good. They made a deep run in the NBA Cup tournament. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They've certainly shown something here. If I'm the Hawks, I could see why, especially with the value of expiring contracts, you might be looking at Clint Capela and thinking, we can package him in a deal and get a piece that's going to get us to that next level. We can get some. I think they already have plenty of wing depth, but could they find another high quality guard, maybe a two-way guard that you can play with Trae Young? Is there something you can do there? I think that they could use him as a piece in a deal that would springboard them to the next level. And if I'm the Hawks and I'm already committed to Onyeka Okongwu being my big of the future, why not move on from Clint Capela right now rather than just say, okay, we're going to lose him for nothing this summer?
Yeah, that's the thinking. There's not much reason to keep him if you're not going to be trying to retain him going forward anyway. So you would like to try to get off of him if that's the case. And I do think that in terms of Capela, I think he could be valuable for a lot of the teams, like I was mentioning, around the league, because there's just such high demand for a center, especially one that you could put out there for, solid 20, 25 minutes per game and get reliable production from. And I think he's one of those guys as well. And in terms of the Hawks, yeah, I think they're in a weird spot. I don't really know. there's been mixed reporting for them over the last couple of years about, where they stand with Trey, things like that. You talked about them bringing in another guard. They kind of tried to do that previously. It didn't work out so great. They need a different skill set there, maybe one that could play a bit more off the ball. I think that would probably be the big thing there. And the only tricky thing is I'm not sure if you're going to get, especially a younger player with that Capela salary, you may have to attach something to him to get something like that back. But if they could get that done, that'd be nice.
And you look at what he's doing right now this season. You look at his numbers over here on cleaning the glass, and he's still posting some pretty good. These are his on-off numbers right now, and the Hawks are simply better with him on the floor currently. So it's not like he's an anchor that's weighing them down or anything like that. Right now, they're plus 5.6 points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. Their offense does take a step back, but defensively, they're significantly better. They give up 10.6 points less per 100 with him on the floor. He's making a difference there. You go take a look at his rim protection numbers. The differential here, he is impacting shots. He is taking 11% off of opponents' shooting averages at the rim. That's not Wemby numbers, but that's not nothing. He is still an impactful player at the rim. So I think it's kind of a win-win on both sides, where a team could get a really good player that I think does still have basketball left at 30 years old, and the Hawks could get that next piece for them, whether that's like a two guard or something like that. Again, we've seen you need somebody who could defend at a high level that could score the basketball. I'm not sure who the best candidate would be. Like, could they get in on Brandon Ingram? They already have plenty of wings, but could that be some type of consolidation trade for Atlanta? Maybe you could do something there. We heard over the summer that the Hawks and the Pels had talked about a Clint Capela deal for Brandon Ingram, but that at that point the Hawks weren't interested. Maybe that changes. Perhaps that dynamic could change there. If I'm the Hawks, I'm not in on Jimmy Butler. I don't think the age is not right for this team. I don't think. But I think there's some interesting guys out there
Zach LaVine?
that they could. What's that?
Zach LaVine, maybe?
That's the one that I thought of, but I worry about the defensive side. Yeah, it could work. That could work, and you could stack up a few salaries there. I mean, I guess let me ask. Oh man, did you just say that? Did you just say that? Zion? Oh my gosh, what's Zion? 36 million?
That would be really nice. But Zion's another of my favorite theoretical guys, man. I don't know. I mean, you kind of know more what Zion is, but he's never out there. Yeah. So
DeAndre Hunter and Clint Capela in a package deal to bring you back Zion and a salary. Are you doing it?
Yeah, I do it. I do it. I get the feeling Zion. To be honest, I get the feeling Zion's gonna finally get things together when he leaves New Orleans.
He's gonna
or in the next couple of years, I think he'll get it together if he stays there. But if he's moved, he'll get it together fast.
Does he have to move to get it together?
No, I think he could do it there, but I think he's gonna have to get to that point where his back is up against the wall, and it's like time for another contract. He's gonna have his best season yet. But if he's moved, I think he does it sooner than later.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What team is the ideal landing spot for Clint Capela? And we can't just default to the Lakers.
Yeah, I was gonna say he'd be damn good on the Lakers. I
think the Pelicans do make a lot of sense.
Yeah, well,
if they're still going, if they're not still going for it, then no.
Yeah. What's the plan? What's the plan for them?
Right.
I actually don't know what the best spot for him is, because a lot of the better teams have good starting centers. And so you hit the question of, like, is he going to be a backup? Are they going to try to do double bigs? Like, what are they doing there? And is he okay with whatever role that is? I think he probably would be if they're winning, but that is a question. Maybe if it's a team that already has a big, maybe New York could be a good one.
That's the one I was thinking.
Another big. Yeah.
If they aren't convinced Mitchell Robinson is coming back, or if they find a trade involving Mitchell Robinson because they're concerned about his injury history, Clint Capela, I think, would make a lot of sense playing either with Towns or behind Towns in that Knicks rotation. I think you make a lot of sense for New York. How they get him is another question, but
also because Towns, he could play either position for you. So I think that works out pretty well. Yeah, there's some other teams here that I think could use a big, but he may or may not fit the best there. So yeah, I think I default to them among teams that are like in the top 10 per conference, because if I looked at other teams, obviously I could say that he'd be good on, the Wizards or the the Nets or something like that, but I don't know if that would be the case.
So there are right now 3 bigs that are on the market that are all similar and to varying degrees on the market, but that are all very similar in terms of their contract amount. Now, Clint Capela is expiring, and so that certainly matters. These other 2 guys are not expiring, but we look at Nikola Vucevic, Clint Capela, Jakob Poeltl. All 3 guys making in the range of about 20-ish million dollars, making in that area. How would you rank those 3?
That's a tough question. that's a really tough question. I think production wise, Vooch is the best one because the numbers statistically are the best with him. But I don't think that he's as good on the defensive side. But I think Clint has offensive limitations. I'm just gonna throw it out there, okay? Because I feel like I could deliberate over this for a while. I'm gonna throw it out there. I will go Vooch 1, 2. Oh, this is tough. 2, I'll go Poeltl. I'll go Poeltl 2. And
okay, so Capela hanging that the rear here.
I probably am getting absolutely flambéed, flipped over, seared, all that stuff in the comments, but all the other cooking analogies. But I was like, man, I don't want to deliberate over it because I could sit down and write a pros and cons list for all.
Oh yeah, you go over, and if we're factoring contracts, I think the fact that Capela is expiring is actually that's an important thing, whereas Vucevic is not. And I don't know if Vucevic is going to continue shooting like this forever. Like, is he going to shoot like this next season, or is he even going to shoot like this the rest of the season, or is regression going to hit? So personally, I think. And maybe I'm not as risk adverse with long-term contracts as most NBA teams are right now. So depending on a team's cap situation, I would order mine, and I could be totally wrong here too. Comments, let us know. I would go Poeltl, Capela, Vucevic. I would actually go that.
You basically flipped it.
I'm betting on regression hitting Vucevic. I don't believe he's going to continue doing what he's doing all season. If he does, then flip it. Then Vucevic is if he plays like the way he has been all season, Vucevic is the top.
Well, the thing is that I'm sure Clint's probably the best defensive one there. I would have to pull up all their similar numbers. And I think that the role is different. Like with Clint or with Jakob, you're not looking for them to be a scoring option the way that you are with Vooch. He can give that to you in a way that those guys can't. He's a better scorer. But I think that within a role on some of these teams that I would like to have these guys on, which would be contenders, you may not be asking for Vooch to do that. You may be asking for more of the intangible / defensive stuff that the other guys can give you better effort doing. And so if that's the case, I think you could flip it too, the way you had it, I'd like. And then also there is value with the fact that Capela has 1 year and you could maybe cut bait with him if you didn't like what you got or what you saw from him. What do you think his number looks like if he gets an extension?
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at that. I don't know. Like, I think if you go into getting him and say, what's the price after this year? I think you're probably talking about somewhere in the 25? I don't think he's getting more than what he's getting right now. So we talking maybe just north of the mid-level exception? Are we talking about can you get him for 13? Can you get him for 15? Maybe something like that. Because that would change the math too. If I knew I could get Clint now, and maybe look, I don't know what Capela wants. Maybe he wants 30 a year. I don't know. And if that's the case, then I'm out. But if there's the possibility, could you get him? If you can get him for like 15 a year, if we could do 3 years, 45 for him with a team option on the last year, that would be an ideal situation, I think, for a team, maybe not from Capela's perspective, but from a team perspective. And I think that would significantly increase his value. That might bump him to the top of the list if I'm a team, and that's what I'm hearing he's willing to do on his next contract.
Yeah, that I think makes a huge difference. So there's a lot really here, but regardless, I think that a lot of these guys are going to be really coveted around the league this year.
Absolutely. The center position, it is back in style. Make sure you go check out our latest video on Jonas Valanciunas, Robert Williams. Their market, apparently, they're the top of the list right now at the center position. There's reasons for it. So go check that out right now.